Today I'm in Norris, Montana, and unfortunately, the beauty is overshadowed by the wind. Listen to it. And it's driving me bananas. Sometimes I like to think back and wonder, how the heck did I end up here? 2 weeks ago, I had one of those moments. I was camping at the Norris Hot Springs campground in Norris, Montana. The wind was blowing my camper around so hard that I couldn't sleep. When we did my camper conversion, we designed this really cool back porch that adds a lot of living space. When we designed this, we never anticipated I'd be camping in such a windy area. Actually, when I look for places to settle into, I never even check the wind reports. I typically only look at annual days of sunshine. I grew up in Michigan, where we only get 180 days of sunshine. Then, I moved to Colorado, where they get 300 days of sunshine. I couldn't believe the difference. My mood was better, and I could actually plan to do things outside without worrying too much about rain. I could go hiking or play disc golf almost any day I wanted to. So, when I decided to come to Montana, I started reading some blogs about the best places to live. Here's what I discovered. As you can see, Bozeman takes the #1 spot. I was like, sweet, this is a great place to start. Now I can see how many days of sunshine each city gets per year. As you can see, there's no data for Bozeman, my #1 choice. So, I proceeded to Google number of annual days of sunshine in Bozeman, Montana, and this is what I found. I thought, holy crap, 300 days per year? That's exactly what I'm looking for. At the time, I thought the number seemed a bit high, since all the other city numbers were quite a bit lower. I later found out the realistic number is closer to 188. Nevertheless, it was the sign from the universe I was looking for. Okay, next step. My plan was to camp near Bozeman for a month to see if I liked the area. So I Googled campgrounds near Bozeman, Montana, and voila, up pops Norris Hot Springs Campground. They're just 35 miles west of Bozeman. They have hot springs, they have live music. Sign me up. After just one night of camping, I was already tired of the wind. How windy was it, you ask? It was so windy that I actually had to close up the porch on my camper, which turns my 18-foot camper into a 12-foot camper. I can live in 18 feet, but I cannot live in 12 feet. It was so windy that I couldn't hear the beeps when I would lock my car. I kept looking back thinking, what the heck? And sure enough, it was locking. I just couldn't hear the beeps. It was so windy that it was nearly impossible to hold the camera steady while I was filming all the birds in the area. After about a week, I realized that the wind was probably never going to let up. So, I decided it was time to find out, is it always windy in Montana? Because if it is, I'm out of here. So, I began to do some research. The first thing I learned is that all wind is not created equal. Let me explain. When I think about wind, I tend to think about sustained winds. But look at this crazy statistic I found. Livingston, which is 30 minutes east of Bozeman, gets 30 miles per hour or higher wind gusts 246 days out of the year. That's an astounding 67% of the days each calendar year. So, what exactly is the difference between average wind speed and wind gusts? The fundamental difference between the two is duration. A sustained wind is defined as the average wind speed over 2 minutes. An instrument called an anemometer can measure wind speed. This instrument is constantly taking measurements. Those averages are calculated every 2 minutes and compiled over a 24-hour period to produce the average daily wind speed. In the US, daily wind speeds typically average between 6 and 12 miles per hour throughout the course of a year. These averages vary widely by geographic location. For instance, of major cities, Boston is the windiest, with an average wind speed of 12.3 miles per hour, while Phoenix is the calmest, clocking in at 6.2 miles per hour. Now let's talk about wind gusts. When we talk about wind gusts, it gets a little more complicated. To be called a wind gust, the brief increase in wind has to be over 18 miles per hour, and it must be at least 10 miles per hour faster than the average wind speed. A wind gust typically lasts under 20 seconds. Surely there must be a "that's what she said" joke in there somewhere. Okay, this is where things get interesting. I decided to Google average wind speed in Montana, and this amazing resource popped up. I'll get back to that photo in just a second. I thought, heck, let's see the whole United States and see what that looks like. As you can see, Michigan is all greens and yellows. This is what I'm used to. If you look at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains and the Great Plains, you start to see some angry colors. Okay, now back to the map of Montana. Take your eyes to the southwest part of the map and find where it says Bozeman. At first glance, it doesn't look all that bad, right? Now, let me zoom in on the Bozeman area. A little west of Bozeman, there's a circular area full of orange, red, and pink colors. Not being that familiar with the state just yet, I decided to do something clever. I'll pin Bozeman, Butte, and the area in question and overlay it onto Google Maps. You're not going to believe what I saw. That circular area full of high winds is exactly where I was camping at Norris Hot Springs Campground. Okay, that's not even the end of the story. I decided to dig a bit further and stumbled upon this amazing resource. The website is called Wind Alert. Try this for a second. Go to their website and type in your city and state in the upper right-hand corner. Then, find the weather station that is nearest to you and click on it. Then, scroll all the way to the bottom and you'll see a chart of average monthly wind statistics. I found this data to be exactly what I've been looking for. Let me show you some examples. Here's Kalamazoo, where I grew up. As you can see, everything looks pretty tame. Compare that to the windiest city in Montana, Livingston. Boom! Those red bars represent winds of 25 miles per hour or greater. Now let's look at Norris, where I was camping at. Double boom. I'm not quite sure why they call Livingston the windiest city because this graph is even worse. Okay, now let's look at the campground I'm staying at in Ennis now. Oh, so much better. But if I'm being honest, it's still too windy for me. This is why I'm heading to Missoula on June 1st. Okay, now that you've got a good grasp on what I'm dealing with here, let's talk specifically about Montana. The campground I'm staying at now is called Ennis RV Village. As you saw from the wind alert images, it's not clearly as windy as Norris. Even so, they still need to put 5-pound rocks on top of their garbage can lids. So, why is Montana so windy? Montana lies beneath a giant weather war zone where cold winds from the north slam warmer winds from the west. The mountains also contribute to the wind. As high pressure pushes air into the state, the wind accelerates down the east slopes of the mountains like a bowling ball gaining momentum. The windiest section of Montana is along the eastern slope of the Rockies. Some of these winds occur in late winter and are formed when warm, moist air from the Pacific Ocean hits the Rockies, loses its moisture, and slams down the east slope at great speeds. It funnels into those valleys that run west to east. 90-mile-per-hour gales are not uncommon in the valleys. What are Montana's windiest months? Many people assume that daily average wind speeds are highest during the early springtime in most North American locales, but this is not always the case. For instance, Buffalo, New York experiences its highest average daily wind speed in January, while San Francisco is windiest in June. In regards to Montana specifically, it seems as though I found varying reports on almost every website I looked at. Take a look. Montana's windiest time is in April and May. Montana's windy season is November through February. The windy season officially begins in September and ends in May. In Great Falls, the winds pick up significantly in the fall and winter. In Helena, the windy season is in the spring, not the fall. Montana's windy season is from November to February. How windy is it on the Rocky Mountain front? It's so windy that the National Weather Service increased the threshold for issuing high wind warnings from 58 miles per hour to 75 miles per hour 3 years ago. The problem with the 58 mile per hour high wind benchmark for the Rocky Mountain front was that people stopped paying attention to them because they were being issued all the time. The high wind warning remains 58 miles per hour everywhere else in Montana except the Rocky Mountain front and in Livingston. Where does Montana rank overall? Montana is the third windiest in the nation at an average wind speed of 21.03 miles per hour. Michigan, where I grew up, is 23rd windiest in the nation at an average wind speed of 17.5 miles per hour. What is the windiest city in Montana? As you can see, and as we already suspected, Livingston is the windiest city in Montana, with an average of 15.2 miles per hour. The state average is 8.9 miles per hour. But to put it all into perspective, Missoula, where I'll be camping at in June, boasts only a 4.1 mile per hour average. So, what makes Livingston so windy? Pressure difference. Typically, low pressure would be located in central Montana with higher pressure to the south. That high pressure can be the result of cold air over Yellowstone National Park. Like water flowing down a mountain, the air flows from the high to the low, and the greater the difference in pressure, the faster the wind. But when it reaches Paradise Valley, the narrow passage between the mountains really accelerates the winds, just like putting your thumb over the end of a garden hose, causing the water to shoot out faster. So, there you have it. Montana is beautiful, but it really blows. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching the Nash Potatoes Outdoor Show. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. We will see you next time.